And Senator Gillibrand is joining us from Washington, D.C. tonight. Senator, thanks for joining us.
Great to talk to you, Liz.
So just a brief update, if you will, on Don't Ask, Don't Tell. I know it's been something that you've been pushing very hard for, and this report came out, which is good news for advocates for repeal. Where does it stand?
Well, the report is good news for advocates because it basically says that about 2/3 of all the military men and women who are serving who answered the survey said that having a repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell would have either no effect or a beneficial effect on the armed services. And the report pretty much established that a repeal would not undermine military readiness or troop morale on any major basis. So it really does undermine some of those who are fighting against repeal, all of their arguments, because they were worried about morale, they were worried about military readiness, but that's not going to be a negative impact here. So
right.
I'm hopeful that we'll get our vote, and we'll get our vote sometime in the next 2 weeks. And I think that when we get an up or down vote on this, we will have the votes we need, because there are a number of Republicans who have said they like to see the report. They've been waiting on the report, but they actually would like to see repeal. And I think the report does everything it needs to do to make the case that the military men and women are ready for this.
Okay, also speaking of up and down votes, you're pushing for one on the Zadroga bill. That's that 9/11 health bill that we've been talking about for a while, actually. And there's a report today in the Daily News about yourself and Senator Schumer trying to sweeten the pot, if you will, to get that last Republican vote. They're concerned about funding. You're offering menu options of funding. Have you gotten any takers yet?
Not yet. I'm working with about a dozen Senate Republicans, and both Senator Schumer and I have been really hammering hard on trying to reach a compromise to say, there are many Republicans who want to pass a 9/11 health bill, who believe in making sure these heroes and these family victims have the resources they need to get the health care they desperately need from these terrible health effects of the toxins that were released when the towers fell. And one of the stumbling blocks has been the pay for, as they say. How do you pay for this $7 billion bill?
Right.
And so we've offered different solutions for that, and I think some of these solutions are good ones that I think our Republican colleagues may well look at and may well be willing to support the bill if that's how we pay for it. So we're moving forward. I think we'll get the last vote that we need in the next week or so. I think we'll have our first vote in the next 2 weeks. So I'm optimistic, and I just think this should not be a partisan issue. There are men and women who are affected, who are first responders in every state of this country, and we need to come together in a nonpartisan basis and really stand by these heroes who desperately need our help right now.
I also want to talk to you about this story that's pretty much got everybody talking. It's the WikiLeaks dump, the latest one, of course. You've got a colleague, Pete King, he's a Republican from Long Island, who says he wants the WikiLeaks founder to be prosecuted for violating the Espionage Act, and he also wants Hillary Clinton, the Secretary of State, to declare WikiLeaks a foreign terrorist organization. What do you think about that?
Well, I think he should be prosecuted, and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. He is certainly a criminal. He is someone who has released top secret, highly confidential information that will hurt our national security and hurt men and women on the ground and put their lives at risk. So he should be prosecuted and thrown in jail for a very long time.
But an act of terrorism? I mean, that seems
it may well be an act of terrorism. It may well be an act of terrorism. It may well be an act of espionage, or it may just be a violation of the act that prohibits the release of confidential top secret information. So he's undoubtedly a criminal. There's definitely a debate about whether this can be a terrorist organization or rises to the level of a terrorist organization, and that's a fair academic debate. But I think what we all agree on is this guy should be in jail. He's doing bad things that hurt our men and women on the ground and hurt our national security in a very, very significant and real way.
Do you think, though, Hillary Clinton's come under a lot of fire. I know that the White House is protecting her and standing up behind her, but some people have suggested that she should resign. And of course, you worked for her. Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. No, Secretary Clinton actually is doing a fantastic job. She has taken the time to call all of our allies, all the countries that were implicated by these leaks in advance, to talk them through, to make sure that there is no loss in trust and no damage to these relationships. She's handled this situation in a perfect way. She's been out front. She's been very tough on this issue, and she knows exactly what she's doing. And I think anyone who calls for that hasn't really looked at the facts.
Well, but she was also in charge, when some of these controversial methods were employed to get information by acts of espionage, arguably.
Right, but there are acts of espionage every single day in every single administration. But what we do need to do going forward is make our laws tougher. And one of the areas where I've focused a lot of time and attention is on cyber crime. I think cyber criminals are really creating an enormous risk to U.S. security. And so I have a bill that I've been working on with Orrin Hatch, in fact, to begin to create international protocols so we can work with our allies, work with other countries to say we have to crack down on these cyber criminals because there is such a small distance between a cyber criminal and a cyber terrorist. And in fact, that is the distance we don't want to be shortened anymore. We don't want the tools of these cyber criminals that can steal data, manipulate data, corrupt data to get into the hands of these traditional terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda or Hezbollah or Hamas that are really determined to destroy American interests. And so I think we need a lot more work done on these cyber terrorism issues, cyber crime issues, and creating international protocols. And that's something I've been working on with Secretary Clinton and the State Department and the administration. And so I'm hoping in this new Congress we can move that legislation forward so we can prevent these kinds of criminals from doing the crimes that they're doing by having better tools for law enforcement.
I know it's not in your House, Senator, but I just want to also get your thoughts very quickly on the vote that's expected tomorrow on Charlie Rangel. It's expected to come tomorrow afternoon on whether he should be censured. He is pushing for reprimand, which is, of course, less severe. Do you think that he should be afforded that less severe punishment?
Well, obviously, these are very serious issues, but Congressman Rangel has not only apologized, but admitted that what he did was very wrong. And this is an issue that the House members are going to have to decide, and I will defer to their process.
Okay, I want to thank you very much, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, for joining us from Washington tonight.